What's up guys, Chris here again with the very first video that I will be doing for a brand new series for the channel called Eden Zero Explained. For this series of videos, I will be going over characters from the Eden Zero manga and explaining their characters, whether it be their personalities, their backstories, and their abilities, to make it very easy for people to get to know these characters and fully understand the grasp of who they are, as well as what their powers and abilities are, as since the anime is currently airing in Japan at the moment of me recording this video, that when you begin watching the anime, you will in fact gain some sort of knowledge and insight on these characters' abilities and have a better understanding of how the world and the characters work. And what better way to start off the series than with the power system of Eden Zero, the Ether Gear. Now before we get started with this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell for updates on future videos. The more you guys interact with this channel and my videos, the more it will be recommended to more people and it'll reach a wider audience, thus allowing this channel to grow. We are on the verge, at the point of me recording this video, to 500 subscribers, and I honestly hope we can reach that by the end of the month, perhaps even surpass it by the end of the month. And I am really hoping that you guys can help me out with this, because this will also help in me getting out more videos weekly so that you guys can enjoy more Eden Zero content, as well as other manga and anime content for the rest of this channel's days. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, so I can get a better understanding and better way to explain Ether Gear, I have gone back through the opening portions of the manga, as well as the Eden Zero wiki account, to compile a good way of how to explain Ether Gear. Ether Gear is basically the power system of Eden Zero. It is basically a machine that allows the users to take the ether that flows from their bodies and use it into a particular power depending on who they are. They can manipulate elements, rearrange machines, make swords, even materialize objects, etc. Now, some people can be born with Ether Gear in their body from the beginning, or it can be transplanted through either certain surgeries, or it can be passed down by people who know how to utilize their own Ether Gear as a way to pass on knowledge or a legacy of sorts. Similar to how Shiki is said to have gotten his Ether Gear powers from his grandfather, Ziggy. Ether Gear is basically a machine that utilizes magical energy to create all sorts of different powers and abilities. Not much is known about the origins of Ether Gear in Eden Zero as of yet, but I am sure we will get that as we get later on into the series. All we know is that it has been a power that was created from the dark ages of the universe, around the time of the Knights of the Sakura Cosmos that we have been introduced to at the beginning of the Eden Zero story, who were some powerful warriors that protected the Sakura Cosmos. And Ether Gear is something that is beyond the cosmos. There are multiple different types of Ether Gear, and Ether Gear can even be extracted with particular devices and even made into weapons, which is something very interesting considering that it is basically an implanted piece of machinery into people's bodies, as previously mentioned. Though Ether Gear does have a very obvious weakness. For one, since it is a machine, powerful electromagnetic pulses can in fact short-circuit them and deactivate them for a short period of time. And there is in fact a character in the story right now that has the ability to actually do this, and it makes certain aspects of fighting very interesting if this is put into play for several different battles or scenarios. Another weakness, which is honestly something you don't find out until probably chapter 50 or 60, you cannot use your Ether Gear if your hands are tied. If your hands are tied, you are unable to use your Ether Gear, even if, let's say, your Ether Gear is not in your arms or hands, but in your legs or your chest or whatever. For some reason, you need your arms around you to be free of movement, to be able to move freely in order for you to use your Ether Gear. Thus, basically bringing the similarities to using magic, since you most likely have to use your hands in a certain way for certain Ether Gear abilities, even if you have to use your legs. Though in recent chapters, it has been shown that you can in fact avoid this weakness altogether through certain physical training in order to get out of certain restraints. And with the right amount of training, this weakness can be overcome and it'll most likely just be a nuisance instead of a real world problem, which also makes it so that the ether gear is also an extension of the body, since you can train it to overcome this particular weakness. And it has been stated that when an ether gear is manifested, it could essentially awaken and reveal even more abilities, similar to an evolving type of power. Let's say your power can be something similar to, let's say, Shiki's gravity. It could, after many years of training or certain psychological trauma, or even tough life or death scenarios, it could be revealed that it could do much more than just manipulate gravity and such, thus making a lot of ether gear's powers and abilities virtually limitless. Some can even be like universe-shaking powers that can in fact change and alter the course of history, if you want to go that far. As of right now in the story, ether gear has no real limits on how powerful it can be. However, many ether gear do seem to have types of limitations and such. So they're not all powerful and can't be used consistently without some sort of drawback to particularly powerful abilities. And the thing I like is that ether gear can be broken up into a multitude of different types, in that they're not all just straight up, physical attribute abilities, whether it just be making particular objects from your ether, manipulating gravity, or elemental type attacks. There can be types with speed amplification, technical types that can be very good for trapping or predicting other people's movements and such, obscuring vision, or even make jails. There are a bunch of different types of ether gear that can be used, and at this point in the story there are a lot, all that pretty much require their own particular videos, and not many of them have a bunch of depth to it aside from the ones that we see more often, and those that we get from antagonists from the series. Now, to round off this ether gear video, it wouldn't feel right if I did not mention the groundbreakingly limit-breaking abilities that ether gear can in fact reach, which is known as the Overdrive state. As far as we know, Overdrive is basically a state of power that ether gear users can achieve under very strict conditions. By the basics of what we know from Overdrive, not too much has been explained, but we have enough that gives a clear-cut explanation as to how it can be achieved. For instance, Overdrive can be utilized by having your ether gear throughout your body, flow throughout your body, and thus making your body a bit more machine-like, causing three-dimensional ether lines to appear all across your body, causing your skin and hair color to change most of the time to a much lighter color. But an overdrive is not very easy to obtain. It is more likely that you will be on the precipice of gaining overdrive by just getting these three-dimensional linear lines that resemble your own ether gear, basically being like a evolutionary state, a midway point, being like you're on the precipice of reaching overdrive, but you have not reached it yet. The more clear-cut way to put it is if you push the ether gear to its critical point, which in that state, most likely either life or death or pushing beyond your limits, can cause your ether gear to evolve past its limits and essentially alter your entire body depending on the type of ether gear you in fact have. It is stated by a character in the series that overdrive is the purest true power of what ether gear can in fact do. This could also change and augment their physical abilities so that they can be physically superior to what they were, which ties into the fact that they are more or less part machine if they allow their ether gear to fully manifest throughout their body and change their body's physical appearance. As far as we know, overdrive cannot be constantly maintained as a permanent state. It is, at this point, a temporary transformation, and there is no other characters in the series as of this point that is able to maintain overdrive for multiple days or even years at a time. It is just a temporary state that ether gear can go when reaching its true power in its purest form. I originally thought of making an overdrive video in and of itself, but there wasn't too much to know about overdrive, so I decided to add it into the ether gear video, since it is basically another state to basic Ether Gear usage. But yes, Overdrive is more or less the overall end-all be-all goal for anyone with an Ether Gear to reach if they want to obtain their Ether Gears like full unadulterated power in what it is fully meant to be. The midway point is just a midway point. You get the lines of your Ether Gear and your body seems a bit changed roughly, and your physical abilities are enhanced significantly. However, the true power of your Ether Gear is not shown unless you reach the Overdrive state, and many times, many people are unable to reach that state unless they train their Ether to the utmost limits to break the point of no return in order to reach this state. But yes, Ether Gear is honestly a pretty interesting power system for Eden Zero, and I'm honestly liking it. The idea that it has such a simple yet effective weaknesses, giving trouble to the main cast that they have to learn to overcome, as well as it having many types of rock, paper, scissors types of usages and varies between different characters, is very interesting, as well as the fact that since it's basically a machine, it can be passed down towards different people, and thus you can teach your own techniques to those that you want to in order to preserve the lineage and memory and techniques of specific Ether Gear types. But yes, Ether Gear is honestly a very interesting power system. I can't wait to see it expanded upon more. If there are new things like the origins of Ether Gear fully explained, or even more insight into Overdrive, I will make a video on it in the future depending on how well this Eden Zero explained video does. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I really want to do more Eden Zero explained videos like this in the future. I will begin to go into more depth, whether starting with characters in the main cast of Eden Zero. So the next Eden Zero explained video that I plan to do will be on Shiki Grambel and his Ether Gear. So yes, if you guys enjoyed this video, once again, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell for updates on future videos, and don't forget to like to show how much you enjoy this content. I honestly really want these Eden Zero explained videos to do very well, because aside from Eden Zero, I want to do this for other manga and anime that I am either covering or watching in the future to add a bit more variety to the channel. I wish I could have gone more in depth on Ether Gear, but there's still a bit of unknowns for Ether Gear and its origins, so like I said, those will have to be for separate videos sometime in the future when they're expanded upon more. But with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and look forward to more Eden Zero videos in the future. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.